Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Joury and Beyond Untold Stories. Today we have someone very special and I'm so excited to be joined by Tim Davies, a true pioneer in the world of e-commerce and multi-channel retail. As the CEO of ZELLIS, Tim has spent over a decade empowering retailers with high converting web stores, marketplace integrations and innovative multi-channel strategies. His experience spans working with major global brands like Officeworks, building successful teams and driving growth in the fast-paced digital retail space. Tim's insights into the future of e-commerce, data optimization, and customer experience are invaluable, and I can't wait to dive into his incredible journey. Hi Tim, welcome to my channel Joury and Beyond Untold Stories. How are you? How's it going?
Doing great. I've just come back from some rather cold experiences in Canada and come back from minus 20 degrees in Canada back to plus 39 degrees in Melbourne. So we're kind of sweating like crazy at the moment and wishing that we were back in the cold weather. But great.
You're getting a heat shock treatment.
Yeah, indeed.
Cool. Without losing time, let's dive into our first question. So you founded your company ZELLIS almost a decade ago. What motivated you to start your own business, and did you find that easy?
So the motivation to start it was literally being made redundant from my previous job, and obviously I needed to have income. So when you need money, that's a pretty good motivation. Did I find it easy? Aspects of it I kind of did find easy, but other aspects I didn't find easy, and other aspects I probably didn't really think through that well. When I was made redundant from my previous job, I was working at eBay. I was working with a lot of eBay sellers. One of my work colleagues said to me, you should do some consulting. I thought to myself, I don't quite know where you get consulting gigs. Do you go and knock on people's doors? Do you look it up in the yellow pages? Like, how do you do this? It was a new concept for me. But I was going to a conference, an e-commerce conference, and I figured that would probably be my best opportunity to get clients that might want to have me talk to them. And so I thought, well, I need a business card. If you give me a business card. And then I thought, well, hang on, a business card's got to have a business name on it. And I need to have a web domain, and I'm going to have to do a website. And so I had to come up with all that in 2 weeks. In retrospect, I probably could have picked a better name than ZELLIS because it actually appears last on almost every list we've ever been on, which means we're at the bottom of the page, not the top. So we're often the last one that people come to. I have started several businesses before, so from that point of view, the admin side and the legal registration side of business wasn't that hard to do because I've done it before. But if I roll back about 20, 25 years or so, the first time I started a business, it was ridiculously hard. I knew that I needed to register for a whole stack of government initiatives and industry things, and I knew that I needed to do it, but I didn't know what they were. So I went to the Small Business Centre in Adelaide, where I lived at the time, and said, I'm starting a new business, so I need to know what I've got to register for, thinking that they would have the answers. They just pointed me to their brochure stand and said, take what you want. That was it. That's the sum total of information I got about starting my business. And at that stage, I was really starting to question my life choices because I was a tradesperson. I was working with my hands. This idea of doing all this admin stuff and registering things and figuring it out for myself was really difficult. So the first time was hard. Once you've done it a few times, you kind of it becomes a bit easier.
Then if you were to start the same company again, what would you do differently?
I'd probably pick a different name, as I said.
Thank you for knowing that.
Look, if somebody had told me that in 10 years from when I started the business, we would be doing what we're doing today with a team of around almost 40 people, I would have just laughed at them. The business has grown evolutionary. It's not been as though I've set out a plan to, in 10 years' time, this is what I want to accomplish. I did have a few objectives that I wanted to achieve, and one of those things was I wanted to be able to, apart from putting money on in my bank account so I could pay my mortgage and everything else, I wanted to be able to provide real assistance and value to clients that work in the e-commerce space, on marketplaces and e-commerce, so that many of whom are small businesses themselves, could actually live the life that they want. So that was kind of my driving force. I wouldn't do anything different as far as that's concerned. I found that the early work that I was taking on, the clients that I was taking on, which were largely consulting clients, was a wonderful job. So as long as you can do consulting, it's great, because they put money in your bank account, you sit on their couch, drinking their coffee, eating their cookies, you talk to them all day, and the money just turns up in your bank account. It's great, you sleep like a baby. The problem came when they started asking me, this sounds great, do you know how to do it, or do you know someone that can do it? And the reality is that I didn't. I didn't entirely know how to do it, and I didn't know anybody else that could do the things that I was telling them to do. So there you go, that's one of the traps of doing consulting. Being an entrepreneur, of course, I said, yeah, I can do that. Thinking to myself, how am I going to, let me give them a number that'll make them run away. So, they're like, oh, great, how much? I said, well, $10,000. Thinking they just run away. I said, oh, that's too expensive, we'll do it ourselves. And they're just like, that's great, when can you start? And I'm like, next week. Necessity is another of all invention, as they say. I found myself moving into the actual hands-on doing of a lot of the things that I was advising people to do. And that then led me to a path where some of the platforms that we were using, some of the technologies and solutions that we were using, I didn't really know how to use them. I knew what they did, but I didn't know how to actually use them. And so I would go to, for example, Nido, and I said, you've got an integration rebate. Can you set it up? Let me look over your shoulder so I know what you're doing, and then I'll know what to do in future. And they just sort of went, boom, 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 boom. Isn't that amazing? And I'm like, what did you do? So, I didn't get all the answers, all the help that I needed. One thing that I think is true of any person that started a business is you've got to have a fair bit of determination. You've got to be willing to stick with it, even when things get difficult. The best value, I think, that we've been able to, or I've been able to deliver to the clients that we work with and our entire team now, is where we've actually figured things out that other people either haven't, or maybe they have figured out but they can't explain it well. The educational aspect of it has become a really important part of what we do, and I'd have to say that's probably the DNA of all the businesses that I've done over the years in all sorts of different categories.
How has your experience as an entrepreneur influenced the way you think about diversity and inclusion?
It started probably with financial necessity. I couldn't afford to pay people more than I was earning to get them locally here in Australia. I found myself working with people overseas because it was affordable and was cheap or cheaper. That then introduced me to communication challenges. That then introduced me to cultural differences and different ways of interpreting jobs. I found that some of the people that we've worked with have great skills in certain areas but lack skills in other areas that we would just take for granted in Australia. So that's definitely been a challenge for us. The more that I've engaged with them, the more I've learned about their culture and the way that they communicate. Some are very aggressive, some are very direct, some are very passive. They're all different, and learning and understanding that without trying to change them means that I've been able to then adapt the way that we communicate to make it all work.
How do you retain good employees in your company? Because good employees always have a better option.
Yeah. Again, it's very easy to use the blunt stick of money and say, well, let's just offer them more. The reality is that money is not an endless resource in any business. You can't just keep putting your price up till you're earning $1 million from each client. It just doesn't work that way. So you do have to work within the constraints of the finances that are coming to the business, and then work out realistically what it costs to run the business, what it then costs to pay all the staff, and so on. So we can't just go and offer top dollar for the best people. We've found that by getting people that are coming out of university, fresh out of university, that are hungry, that have good problem-solving skills, that are really looking to get that experience, we find that they're often really good candidates that end up staying with us for a long time. Obviously, their pay goes up in that time as well. And so we found that's worked fairly well for us. Yeah, it can be quite hard keeping them. Again, the different countries vary.
Right. In your view, which is more important, having a great idea or executing it well, and why?
There are many businesses around the world that are the same idea. It's just that one of them does it better, or a couple of them do it better than others. So I would probably say that execution is more important than the idea. I think that imperfection is okay, providing speed to market, and execution is good and support is good. We've had some good ideas, but those good ideas didn't start from day one. Those good ideas have taken 4, 5, 6 years to develop, where we can look back at the experience we've had along the way with all the feedback we've been getting from our clients to arrive at a solution or a service which is really, really good, but we didn't think of it at the beginning. So it's probably a little bit of each, but I think execution is really important.
Yeah. Tell us about your friend circle. Are you always surrounded with entrepreneurs?
Certainly, I enjoy talking with entrepreneurs. I find their mindset is, again, can do, problem solving. Some of them are quite competitive and, don't like being told they can't do something. I admire that sort of attitude in people, as long as it's not, abrasive or disparaging of others. My circle of friends are generally people that can have a robust discussion. We can have disagreements and still have full respect for each other. I think that's really important in those kind of friendships. If I look at the difference in the friendships that I have today compared to what they were, when I was maybe a teenager, early 20s, very few of those friends from back then are still my friends today. They've just gone in different directions. They've not had that sort of mindset. So I certainly do. What's the saying? It's hard to soar like an eagle when you're surrounded by turkeys.
Do you think it's important for entrepreneurs to be surrounded by like-minded people?
I think it helps. I've found in my experience, sometimes when you accomplish something or you are perceived to be successful in something, that you get a bunch of people that start hanging around you wanting to prick your brain. I even get people actually say that, I just want to pick your brain. That's a warning to me straight away that they're a freeloader. They're not able to work it out for themselves, and they're not really the entrepreneurial mindset. I'm not saying everybody's like that. I don't just discount people that quickly, but I have found that there is that tendency to have people that have actually had success and had failure, I will say as well. Like, it's important to have failure as well to really understand the two ends of the spectrum. You can't just go through life being perfect. I think that that's a really useful experience to go through. I've been quite surprised at some of the managers or some of the colleagues that I've worked with who have been through very, very adverse circumstances and come out, and I would never have thought it unless they told me.
Interesting. How do you deal with the constant evolution of the e-commerce sector? Do you find it easy to keep up, or do you always have to keep changing things in your business?
A bit of both. In terms of keeping up with what's happening, there's a lot of really good industry publications and sources of information, both LinkedIn, Facebook, and a bunch of media outlets that are really right on the pulse. So I do tend to read those and keep up with those. It's my sort of morning routine every morning to kind of go through a lot of those news or as much as I can. So in terms of keeping up with where things are going, that's kind of easy. Being able to adjust the business, both in terms of services, skills and resources, to be able to meet those things is actually not so easy, because things don't change in a day. They take time. So, AI is all the rage. They've been talking about it for years, and now it's here with a vengeance. Are we ready for it? No. Have we got solutions in it? No. Are we thinking about it? Yes. Will we have something next year? I don't know.
Yeah, fair
it's
enough.
a process.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. What do you think will be the next big disruptor in the e-commerce sector, and why?
I think AI is already being a disruptor, and that's probably going to be the disruptor for the next, foreseeable number of years. Nobody really quite knows where it's going. Nobody really quite knows the extent to which it can be used in e-commerce or any industry for that matter. There's all sorts of ideas, some of them apocalyptic, some of them quite, visionary. So it's one of those things we just sort of have to wait and see where it all goes. What I know from the business owners and colleagues and people in the industry that I'm speaking to, everybody's thinking about it. Everybody's trying to look for ways of applying it to enhance the customer experience, to improve conversion, to improve deliverability, to make things more efficient, to save money, to save time. It's certainly not there to try and put people out of work. That's not the attitude that I'm hearing from people, but it's about to improve the experience. I think that'll continue being a disruptor for a long time. Probably the second one, if I can have a second one on that, would be data. I think that the use of data has always been there, but I think that we're getting better and better at structuring it, and I think AI is going to be a big force in that space.
Yep. You worked at eBay for a while. How was that experience like? Do you think selling on marketplaces is still worthwhile for retailers?
Working with eBay was an incredible experience. I felt the average IQ of people in the room was substantially higher than mine. That's the way I felt when I worked there. I felt there was a lot of really, really smart people there that were...
You're just being humble.
Well, look, I was in good company. And I just felt that people were on a mission to really make a difference in their little corner of the world in one way or another. A lot of the colleagues that I worked with at eBay have since gone on to lead other businesses in fairly senior roles and have carried that visionary mentality with them. Do I think that selling in marketplaces is still worthwhile? Yes, I think it is, because what you're doing is you're spreading your audience, you're spreading your reach to your audience. How much you can actually buy in terms of customers through SEO, through marketing, it's limited to how many dollars you're willing to spend. I think the ACCC worked out that it costs roughly about $88 per person to acquire a customer. That was the average cost of acquisition of a new customer to a marketplace. That was the ACCC that published that. It's a big number. So if you start spending $88 to get 1,000 customers, well, hang on, that's $88,000. Have you got that to spend on marketing? No. But if you go on the marketplaces, you don't spend anything up front. You only pay for a percentage once you've actually made the sale. So yeah, I think marketplaces are good. However, I would say I don't believe that marketplaces as a sole strategy is necessarily the right way to go. I think that you need to also have clients that you own or customers that you own yourself.
It makes sense. You have worked with global brands like Logitech, Target, and Officeworks. What is your approach to helping established brand adapt to the fast-paced world of online retail, especially when they're already so successful in the traditional retail for years?
A lot of the success of these retailers in the digital space has come about by change agents within their business. I've got to say, my experience in dealing with them, both when I was at eBay and since with the clients that we've worked with since, a lot of the traditional management really don't get digital or don't get it very well and traditionally haven't. But they do understand human psychology, they do understand the physical retail experience. It's been either a younger generation or a very educated or experienced group of people within those businesses that might have come from a marketplace background or a digital background that have then actually fostered that change within the business. I get a lot of the colleagues that I work with at eBay have gone into work in those sort of businesses and brought that kind of inoculated that mindset, you might say, into it. This is probably going a little bit long in terms of time, but as another angle on that, the automotive category, we find that is amplified even more so. There is a real reluctance to embrace digital. It's not with everybody, but they're a little scared of what they don't know. What they do know, it's a bit like dog paddling in a pool, and you just think if you swim, dog paddle faster, you'll go faster and you'll go quicker. Well, you won't. You need to actually change the way you swim in order to succeed. If you're up in an Olympic pool doing freestyle, and e-commerce is a bit like that. So we've found that a lot of businesses have had to re-engineer or change their processes, change their marketing budgets, change their internal structure and teams to really actually take up the e-commerce side of it. It can be quite challenging.
What would you say to aspiring entrepreneurs who are looking to break into the e-commerce space? Are there any lessons or truth you wish someone had told you when you first started out?
That's a great question. I actually started selling online before I worked at eBay. And the reason I started selling online was because I'd lost a job, had to make some money, had to find some things and sell them on eBay because that's all I could think of doing. I won't say I did a bad job of it, but there was definitely a lot of things that I didn't know. I made some assumptions about what products I thought my customers would like, and it was my customers that taught me what products they wanted. I was selling studio lighting equipment for photography, and I'd listed studio lighting kits and so forth, but my customers kept asking me, we just want a stand. In my head, that didn't make any sense. Why would you want a stand? For what? You buy a light with a stand, but you don't need a stand, but obviously they wanted more stands. So the stands ended up being the biggest seller in my business. It was my customers that taught me that. I think, to answer your question in a slightly different way, I think being open to the feedback that you get from customers, you won't have all the answers from the start. It's a process. And so asking for that information, that feedback from customers, and also colleagues and people that you trust in the space that might not be competitors, I think is useful to run it past other people as well.
Yeah. So you have been through the highs and lows of building business, probably across different industries. What has been the most defining moment of your entrepreneurial journey, and how did it shape your perspectives on business?
there's probably two, and they're probably at both ends of the spectrum. So the first was losing a business, having to close it down. My son had just been born a couple of months earlier. I had a car repossessed, couldn't pay my rent. That was a moment of, you might say, clarity sort of forced upon me at that point to go, well, you can't take anything for granted. And that's always been there at the back of my mind. That was a really difficult experience to go through. Anybody that's been through anything like that will know exactly what it's like. But you do come out stronger. It's just not the next day. It's sometimes a few years later when you look back on it. The other area that I would say was a moment of clarity for me is when I've changed the business that I'm working in today to being just me working with a couple of other people in the back office to actually having our entire team working remotely. I'm the only one that works in Melbourne. Everybody else is working in other places. And to actually be able to build the trust in my mind to allow my staff to do their job and to actually trust that they are doing it, they're not just taking me for a ride, that's been a real challenge for me, I've got to say. But the rewards are definitely there, and I've warmed to that and I've gotten used to that, but that wasn't an easy transition for me.
No, can't even imagine.
Yeah.
As someone who has grown businesses without borrowing money, again, I'm trying to dive deeper. How do you approach financing your ventures? Do you prefer bootstrapping, or are there specific circumstances where external funding you think can be beneficial?
That's a really good question. I do favour bootstrapping. I do favour actually funding it yourself, and I think just the same as you do things in life, don't overextend. I think that's just my personal view. I know that not everyone shares that view. When you take on investor funding, whether it's VCs, whether it's another family friend or whoever it happens to be, even a bank, you introduce another stakeholder into the business that can actually affect your agenda. And that can be okay. In the case of a bank, they're not going to tell you how to run your business, but if you don't make the payment, they're going to come back and try and take their money back. But if you get a venture partner or somebody that might want a board seat or something like that, suddenly you've got somebody else that's in the driving seat or sharing the driving seat with you, and that can cause an issue. The other, I'm not saying it always does. The other thing is too, when you're using somebody else's money, it's very easy for you to just go, hey, I quit, and they just walk out. And I've seen this with businesses that are being competitive to us in the e-commerce space as well, where they've literally gone through millions of dollars. Everyone's had their big pays, they've gone and sponsored this and gone on trips and done all these marketing things, done wonderful things. And then at the end of it, when they see the money's going around it, they just go and quit and go and get another job. There's no skin in the game. And I've got to say, one of the things about being an entrepreneur is when there's skin in the game, you've got to find a solution every single time. You can't just go, oh, well, it's somebody else's issue. And so I do favour bootstrapping because I think it builds resilience.
Yeah, okay. In your 30 years of experience, what has been the most challenging part of scaling your business, and how did you overcome that challenge?
That's an interesting question. Most of the businesses that I've had in the past were either just me and 2 or 3 other people, like fairly small, and most of those were actually face to face. I've found scaling the business was not really something that we were doing. Like I used to run weight loss clinics. We had 3 clinics. That was it. I was never going to have 20 clinics. That wasn't ever the goal.
Yeah.
The business that we're in now, though, is a little different, and so there is scale that is definitely something that we're chasing, and that's because we're offering software solutions. For us to take another 10 customers doesn't mean we have to take another 10 people, and so scaling is obviously the way to actually get profit that we can keep and revenue we can keep in the business and apply.
Yeah.
That's been a challenge to shift my thinking around how we do that. It's not about making $20,000 in one customer. It's about making little amounts and actually scaling that, leveraging that over a period of time.
Nice. So, Tim, you mentioned the difficulties of managing cash flow and not having enough money. What financial strategies or tools you have found that can be essential for maintaining financial stability and growth in anyone's business?
I wish I had the perfect answer for that, but I'm not sure that I do. It's still something that I struggle with. And that's not just because I can count numbers and multiply numbers like anybody else, but I mentally have a challenge with excess and complete lack. When I don't have money, I feel quite angry and indignant and annoyed. Why? We've done everything right. Why should we be in this position? I find that emotionally quite challenging. And yet, when we've got plenty of money in the bank account, weirdly, I feel guilty. there's no middle ground. It's a weird relationship that my mind sort of has with money. To be able to balance that does require constant looking. I don't sit there and pore over the numbers every day. I use Xero. I find Xero very, very good tool to be able to manage it, and reports come out straight away. I keep the reconciliation stays on top. For the first time in my life, in my entire business career, with Xero, I've been able to do that. Previously, I found that very, very challenging to keep up with. So quite often I would let a month or 2 or 3 go by, and I'd never really looked at the numbers because I hadn't reconciled everything. At least now I'm up to date with that. So I'd say get good software in place and just keep your eye on it.
You said that you find it emotionally challenging when you don't have enough cash, say in your business or in your personal account. How do you manage your emotions at that time?
Whiskey. No, I'm sort of joking. If you fret about it too much, you will not come up with a solution because you're actually impeding your own sort of creativity to actually come up with ideas. I do find that I do need to unplug and switch off.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just have to accept I don't have the solution today. I don't have the solution right now. I'm just going to unplug. I'm going to watch a video, watch TV, have a whiskey, drink, go for a walk, whatever it happens to be. And I find that with that relaxation, I find myself becoming more creative and going, I could do this or I could do that. So that's probably my secret, you might say.
Yeah, okay. What are the 3 simple things one can do to take care of their personal finances?
The first one I'd probably say is don't spend more than you earn. There can be a temptation to go and grab credit cards because they're easy. Banks will give you a $500, $1,000 credit card. I've been in the trap before where I've had credit cards and I've maxed them out. The problem is when I max them out, it takes a lot to get them back to zero. The second thing I'd say is be realistic about what you need, whether it's in business or in personal life. A lot of people look at others and go, they've got that, therefore I should have that. No. Your journey is your journey. Always put a little bit away for savings. Whether you're going to invest or not, I think investment's good, but I won't say I've been a consistent investor over my life. I think being able to save consistently is a good discipline. It may not be much in some weeks, but it's a good habit to get into. I think a little bit every day adds up over several years to quite a bit.
Saving is something my parents taught me.
Taught me the same as well, but I won't say that I really understood that until I'd been through the credit card issue.
Right.
Because that was easier than saving. You could get it now. And I ended up buying a whole bunch of things that I didn't really need. They were nice, but now, 10 years, 20 years later, it's like, well, I don't care whether I had it or not. It doesn't make any difference. So, sometimes we look at value of things in the future differently to how we look at them in the past. Yeah.
Hi everyone, if you found the episode helpful, feel free to like, share and subscribe. It really helps support the channel. Thank you so much.